Hello, everyone, and welcome to Famology. We're John and Amy Clausen, and we love family. And so we are leaning into your questions about family, about parenting, about marriage, and we invite all of your questions, whether they be general or whether they be very specific to your situation, send them our way, and we will compile those
Yeah.
and gather together and give a weekly question that we'll lean into. Maybe we'll end up doing it more than once a week if people are interested. So, are you ready for the question of the week, honey?
Yes.
All right. So this is the question: our children are just starting to leave the home, ages 18, 17, and 10. What are some practical ways to be intentionally involved in their lives while still allowing them to expand their wings and figure out their or God's plan for their lives?
I think this is a fun season of
Yeah.
life when all your kids are still home and growing and launching. It's a
Mhm.
hard season, but I think it's a really fun season. What are your thoughts on that launching season? Fun, hard?
It's fun, and I sometimes you feel their stress because it's just a
Right.
new thing, and
Right.
so that part isn't quite as fun for them anyway.
Right.
But yeah, I think every new season is a new season, and that's what the Lord brings you into. And when you look back on our own lives,
Yeah.
I mean, they're all good, and we know that
Right.
now that we're getting older.
Yeah, it's been kind of a journey. We've launched 6 of our 8 children, and it has, there's been some bumpy parts and some really fun parts, but overall, I do enjoy this season with our kids. But specifically to this question on practical ways to intentionally be involved in their lives. And I think one of the main things is being interested in what they're interested in. If your kids are involved in music, show genuine interest, like learn about what they are interested in. If they're really good at playing the saxophone, watch yourself some YouTube videos about what makes a good saxophone player so that you can learn to speak their language and have meaningful conversations. And you're laughing because of all the
I know where you're heading with this. So my wife has been watching defensive line video to
Yes,
try to figure out what in the world her son is doing on the
that
field.
is true. Because
and,
it's important. He's
and,
interested in it.
and defensive line is funny because it's all over the place. And you think it'd be pretty straightforward, like see quarterback, tackle quarterback,
Right.
but it's not. And there's a lot of stunts and movements and plays.
Yeah.
And usually it's just a big pile of mess,
Yeah.
which is what my
That's
wife,
what I
that's what
see.
she sees is big pile of mess, where I'm like, oh, Elijah made a good play, even though he didn't make the tackle. He's the one that pushed the running back
Yeah, yeah,
to the
yeah.
one that could make the tackle. And so there's a lot of intricacies. So she used saxophone as the example, but really what she was thinking was defensive line.
Yep, that's true. I'm just saying, we don't have a saxophone player at our house.
No.
However, it's true, whatever their interests
Yeah.
are. And one of our son, who's 17, is extremely interested in musical scores that go along with movies. And so this fall, I don't even pay attention to it. It's never like even on my radar.
No.
Past that sounds pretty. I do notice that sounds pretty,
Yeah.
but he has become extremely interested in them. And there was a Hans Zimmer concert, which Hans Zimmer, I didn't know that name until
Nope.
6 months ago. And we took him to that concert because it's an area that he's extremely passionate about.
And it was incredible, by the way.
Yeah,
Absolutely
I now
blown
am a
away.
big Hans Zimmer
I
fan.
am too. Highly
So
recommended.
yeah, but just taking the time to be interested in what they're interested in and doing it together as a family.
Yeah, and when we really talk about transitions, which is a little bit more what I answered this question with, is just that transition piece and how we
Yeah,
walk through it with them. Just a couple comments. Number one is when we intentionally parent and when we inject ourselves into their lives, which is what we should do as parents.
yeah,
That's not constricting their wings.
yeah,
When we
it's
think about
true.
letting them fly,
Yep.
Amy and I are very, very adamant about the fact that parents need to parent,
Yeah.
and it's okay to really walk through them during these transitions,
Rock through
walk through life with
with
them
them. There you go.
while they're
It
transitioning.
sounded like they were invisible and you were just going to
Walk
walk
through
through the.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, walk with them
Yes, thank you.
through these transitions, because they need parents.
Right.
It's a new experience because it's a new experience. They've never
Right.
experienced it before. And
Yeah, it's
most
true.
things we have, not everything,
Yeah.
but a lot of things that we have. And so we can give them advice and and counsel them and just be an ear to listen to,
Yeah.
just to off stress
Yeah.
some of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Amy fields many calls during the day of
Yeah.
off stressing.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's what parents are for. And
Yeah.
so just be really available, and provide the time for them to share their hearts and to explain the things that they're walking through because it's new.
Yeah. And I think actually our two responses so far go hand in hand,
Yeah.
because I think when we invest time in their younger years and being truly interested in what they're interested in and having conversations with them in those areas of interest, it allows this gradual progression to being just organically involved in their decision making, because we're used to operating as a family. And
Yeah.
so their interests, whether it's, hey, what college am I picking, or who should I get married to, I mean, that starts with, hey, come see my Lego creation when they're 6. And so being interested in those things and being involved and just have curiosity about your children is a beautiful thing that leads to having these open door conversations when it truly matters. Don't wait. Don't ignore the Lego and then only want to be involved in the what college, what woman, what, those conversations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it is crazy though if you think about ages 18 to 23,
Yeah.
22, and how many decisions are made in that window of life.
Yes.
It's unprecedented. And the rest of your life, you really don't make that many as big
Yeah.
of decisions as you do right there. Where you're going to go to school, what you're going to study, what your job's going to be, who you're going to marry, all of those different aspects of life, and they need help.
Yeah, they do.
And so,
Whether they know it or
part of
not.
this podcast is to empower you as parents
Yeah.
to not listen to the world that says, oh, we don't want to constrict them, we don't want to
Yeah.
over parent. And yes, I
good.
mean there's always ways to be obnoxious about things. I mean, all of us have the ability to do that.
Yeah, we do.
But always err on the side of over communicating, err on the side of over parenting,
Yeah.
because that's what your children need from their parents. That's why we're
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
And that's why they're called dependents, because they depend on parents to actually give them instruction through life. Amy knows this, but one of my biggest pet peeves is sort of the comment that we need to let the kids make their own mistakes and we need to
Yeah.
let them discover things on their own. I think that's a bunch of baloney. Honestly, I really do. I mean, why have parents if we
Yeah.
don't share our experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly of
Yeah.
the things that we actually walk through, so that they
Right.
don't have to make the same
Right.
mistakes? I get a little red in the face when we
Yeah.
talk about that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so important though. That's why they have us. And so we can actually give them really sound advice
Yeah.
so that they don't have to make the same mistakes that we did.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so, yes, they need to understand life. It doesn't mean we jump in and we take their classes for them. It doesn't mean that
Don't do it. Don't
doesn't-
write those papers for your babies,
And
Mama.
as much as I would like to pick the spouses out for my daughters, apparently that's not a thing anymore. Apparently the whole arranged marriage thing is kind
Right.
of fallen out of favor.
Right.
In America, at least anyway. So apparently that's not something I can do. But as much as I would like to do that, we get to let them make their own decisions
Yeah.
in some of those things as well. So they make their own decisions, but boy, I want to have a voice in who they marry.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, we are their parents, and so
Yeah.
we need to unashamedly be part of their lives.
Yeah, that's good. And the other thing, so you went, deep launch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, the other thing that I wrote down was about having fun with your kids,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like what Johnny is talking about is best built on a platform of fun and enjoyment as a family.
Yeah.
And so when your kids are younger and you've shown interest in what they're interested in and you play a lot together, you have fun together, you watch movies together, you play board games together, you go snowshoeing together, you find things that are fun to do as a family, and then you do them, and you do them on repeat.
Yeah.
Fun in family is not something you only do on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be something that you do on the daily, like every day, laughing with your kids, doing, even if you have just 20 minutes, capturing a small board game or capturing a snuggle on the couch. Those things are super important. And sometimes in busy lives as parents, we can move past them because we think that, Our jobs, yes, super important. Keeping our house clean, important. All the things that weigh on our time, like our commitments to our church, all of those things. But if those things are crowding out family fun, your life has become too crowded because you actually want to invest in these things so that when your children launch, they want to come home and have fun some more.
Mhm.
That your nest is a place of fun for your families if they're 2, if they're 10, when they're 30 and bringing their own children home to have fun.
Mhm.
That's a hallmark of it.
That's good. Fun is the key, and you really learn a lot about each other when you're just playing and
Yeah,
enjoying
the
each
good, the
other.
bad, and the ugly,
It's
actually.
true. It's true. No examples given.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a little competitive, maybe,
Really? I didn't know.
maybe, and so sometimes that brings out some things which isn't good, and the Lord's working on me. But also, great conversations have broken out when you're
Yes.
just spending time together outside of those stressful situations
Yeah.
where you can just kind of be.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important as well. And
Yeah.
speaking of stressful situations, I think this is very, very important in the culture in which we live right now, is that stress isn't always bad.
Right. That's good.
Okay, sometimes when we look at things that are hard, we equate things that are hard with things that are bad.
Yeah. That's
and
so good.
and when we are operating in the kingdom, he's going to ask us to do hard things, and some part of that, a big part of that, are called transitions.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
it's a sometimes transitions are one of those bum 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 kind of words where it's
Yeah.
like, I'd rather just stay where I am, where I'm comfortable in doing what I'm comfortable doing. But he doesn't usually leave us there. That
Right.
usually is not his MO.
Yeah.
He usually tries to draw us into deeper waters, and sometimes that's a little bit of an uncomfortable place to be, but that does make it bad.
Yeah.
And so I want to raise kids that are unafraid to try something new, to push the envelope,
Yeah.
to stretch themselves, even if I dare say, do something that's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I always tell our kids this, and you're gonna recognize this, that he never promised us comfort.
Yeah.
Nowhere in the Bible does he say that. He gives us the comforter,
Yeah.
and I always say he would never have had to give us the comforter if he didn't require us to do things that are uncomfortable.
Right.
And so
That's so good.
that's the reason he is there, is because he's actually
Yeah.
drawing us things into things uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I'm willing to be uncomfortable for him. I'm willing to do things that stretch me, even though I'd much rather just stay in with my little nookie blankie. But he doesn't always allow that for us, and we want to raise kids that are unafraid to do that as well. So
Yeah. And when you have people that are around you, no matter what, it's a safe place to do new and uncomfortable things.
that's what
And
family's
that's
for.
what family's for. They're
It's
not
true.
ever just out there by themselves
No.
and facing the storms of life
Yeah,
alone.
just this last year, we've had a couple of our children that have really, made some big changes and big moves. And going out the door, Amy and I have been purposing to say, we're with you in
Yeah.
this, like whatever it takes, because we know this is going to be a difficult transition. So, financially and spiritually and
Yeah.
emotionally and whatever you need, because that's what family does,
Yeah.
is we surround each other
Yeah.
during those difficult times. But they're difficult, but they're good.
Yeah.
you know, I we were just talking this weekend about glory to glory. He
Yeah.
always takes us into something better.
Yeah.
And the latter house will be greater than the former house. That's
Yes.
how he rolls. And I love that. And I just released that over you too as you
Yeah.
listen. That even as we transition, even as our
Yeah.
kids, when they're 18 and 17 and they're thinking about these really big decisions in life,
Yeah.
that it's good.
Yeah.
They're taking them into something else
Yeah.
that's
It's
even
so
great, that's
good.
even greater. And so I just want to encourage you parents
Yeah.
in that, as well, as to always have
Yes.
that perspective.
And that actually brings to my mind when our oldest two, Jake and Emma, they launched within like 9 months of each other, and it was I felt like I had whiplash. I am by nature a gatherer, and I love having all my kids in my nest. And so when my first couple were out and about and doing things, I had like started to feel depressed. Like I was just I felt like I was in mourning, and it sounds silly, but I was just mourning the loss of having everybody together. And the Lord actually, he called me into account about that, using actually that phrase, glory to glory.
Mm,
And he said to me, he's like, Amy, don't you know that I move you from one season of glory to a new season of glory?
Wow.
And just because you've loved the past season of glory doesn't mean you're not going to love the next season. You just haven't tasted it yet.
Yeah.
And that realization and a little bit of repentance on my part, for allowing those emotions to take root in the things I was believing, but really broke that off of me. And
So good.
it allowed me to almost instantaneously embrace the next season of glory.
Yeah.
And it has been a next season of glory. We're enjoying this time too, as we have adult kids and grandbabies and all the yummy things that accompany it. But I had to get a perspective of the glory to glory,
Yeah.
and we need it for ourselves. We need it, and we need to show that to our children as well.
And the last thing I would say too is just that, we always need to make sure that we, especially, I shouldn't say especially, with all of our children, but it's really been impressing on me, even with our older children, is to make sure that we are positively reinforcing them, because they are amazing people.
Yeah.
And they are making really good decisions.
Yeah.
And because they're human, they're probably wondering that.
Yeah.
And so when parents come along and say, man, you picked the right thing, you picked the right girl, you picked
Yeah.
the right,
Yeah.
you walk through this really well.
Yeah.
When you're parenting,
Yeah.
I'm blown away by your parenting.
Yeah.
And we just say things like that.
Yeah.
It just settles some things in their spirit.
Yeah.
And so the question is, how do we be involved in their lives while still allowing them to sort of be themselves in their own homes? I think that's one way that's really a powerful way of doing it, is just noticing all the things that they're doing well.
Yeah.
And the old adage of the mother-in-law and all these things.
Yeah.
I mean, those are cultural things that don't have to be.
No.
And so we can just be the most encouragers to them, even if it wouldn't be the way that we would do it.
Yeah.
I think that's really key, because sometimes we get we're like little curmudgeons, and we think that it's got to be done our way.
Right.
And then if they do it a different way, then something needs to be said.
Right.
Well, usually not.
Usually.
And Amy and I have kind of adopted the phrase, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we're just pushing them into the deep end, but even though it's not how we would do it,
Yeah.
they'll figure it out, because they do, and they're amazing
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And so just make sure that we're encouraging them, because it's
Yeah,
a very
that's so good.
vulnerable time being
Yeah.
a young adult.
Yep.
And
You don't have the track record that you have at 52 and 56
right.
of the times the Lord has come through, or the times we've made even a wrong decision, but the Lord has still been faithful.
Yes. Plenty of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
They're building their track record, and so they need cheerleaders along the way.
Right. So Father, we are so grateful for transitions. It's a powerful word, sometimes a scary word, but Lord, you are always so good, and you take us from glory to glory. And so, Lord, even over the listeners listening today to this podcast, I just release a blessing over their homes,
Yes.
especially when they have children that are starting to think about these launching periods, these transitions in life, these big transitions in life.
Yes.
Lord, I just pray for wisdom for parents to guide them and to direct them, to be intentional and to be encouraging to them through these times. And for the kiddos themselves, that they would be connected to your voice, not live in fear, but live with anticipation of what you have for them next. Because you're a good God like that. And we are so grateful to be your children.
Yeah.
So we just release that blessing right now in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.
If you would like to submit a question for our show for John and Amy to answer, just go to our website at gofam.org and submit through the Contact Me page on our website. How you can partner with us is by finding us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and follow us there. Like, comment, interact with us so that we can boost our engagement and reach more people.